the recently canceled podcast with Don Fry.
Hey, how goes it? So, doing something new here. Starting a little premium podcast. I'm calling it Recently Canceled. I think the name is appropriate because who knows what the hell's going to happen here. So, the idea is I've got some topics for you that I want to discuss that the censors over at YouTube don't want me to be sharing opinions on. And the way we're going to go about this is we're going to have a few of these topics over here, for everybody who's listening. Then the three of you who are Patreon supporters will get to hear the last two. So, starting off, I want to talk to you a little bit about Star Trek TNG, the Oscars, and then for the premium listeners, revisiting my Death of the Movies playlist from 6 years ago, and talking about the, let's see, how do we get this past the YouTube censors? The park land acting of students? Let's say it like that. Okay. So maybe that'll throw them off. Let's go ahead and get this started. So on Netflix, haven't been watching a lot of movies lately. I guess I'll talk to you a little bit about one of them here rather than do a video on it, and it was Mystic Pizza. This was from, was it 89? Shit, it's like 87, 88, 89, something like that. This is a movie where the poster's been revised so that the star looks bigger. So it's like Julia Roberts front and center. Well, it's about three girls living in, was it, Connecticut? At first I thought maybe this was Maine or something. They work at a pizza joint called Mystic Pizza, and it's place, the town's called Mystic. And they each have their own little love story. One of them bailed out on her own wedding, got cold feet with Vincent D'Onofrio, who magically has been appearing in a lot of stuff I've been watching, so I'm predicting he dies soon, because that's the way that tends to work. Then the other one, I wasn't really too familiar with. She is like some good girl. She's going to go to, what was it, MIT or something? I think it was MIT or Princeton. Maybe it was Yale. God damn, it was some Ivy League. She wants to study the stars. Yeah, some good that's going to do you. And she ends up falling for a guy considerably older than her who has a kid that she's babysitting while his wife is away. And the kid's kind of dropping these hints that they're getting divorced. And, oh, hey, I really like you, but, my mommy, I don't like her. And then the mom comes back and it's like, burn. Then you got Julia Roberts, who, if anybody is the lead here, it would be that one I just told you about. Not Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts is the hoe. She's the sister, I guess older sister of the good girl. She also works at the pizza place, and I hadn't really heard Julia Roberts drop an F-bomb, but she's like the only one that curses in the movie. I was like, oh shit. And then by the end of it, they convince some food critic to come to the pizza joint, and he acts real uppity. But then it turns out he likes the pizza, goes on his TV show, talks about how great the pizza is and that everything's going well for everybody. There's some forgiveness handed out here and there. Julia Roberts' character has this boyfriend who drives around in a Porsche. 911 Cabriolet, looks pretty nice. She thinks he's seeing somebody else behind her back. Ruins his car, like dumps I don't know what into it. I guess fish. And then he's like, oh, hey, that chick I'm with, that's my sister. Let me introduce you. And then he gets to do the, okay, I'll forgive you card type thing. And then by the end of it, it looks like they patch things up. And the first girl I was telling you about, she's the one, she appears in like scary movies or ones that try to be. Remember that Haunting with Liam Neeson and Owen Wilson, kind of before anybody knew who Owen Wilson really was? Remember that? She was in that. She was in, I think she was in Say Anything at one point. Not a scary movie, but also she was in, what is it? In one of the recent horror films that's doing well. I haven't watched. Like, was it Insidious or Haunting? I think the first one of whatever that I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, she gets together with Vincent D'Onofrio at the end, and then they're like, "Oh, what does that gal?" And by the way, the one who runs the pizza joint is the nanny from Two and a Half Men, who I guess was born an old woman. So they're like, "What does she put in that pizza?" I guess she'll tell us someday. And there you go. That I guess this one is the first of the rom-coms for Julia Roberts, and also there was this dinner table scene where it's revealed that all these girls are supposed to be Portuguese, and there's supposed to be some kind of weird racism thing going. But I never really, I wasn't looking at Julia Roberts going, "Oh, she's Portuguese." Whatever. But she's eating dinner at her rich boyfriend's place, and you may recognize this weird-looking kid at the table. First appearance in a film from Matt Damon. Yeah, Mystic Pizza. Now, it wasn't the worst thing ever. You can kind of watch it. I'll give it 2 out of 4 stars. But chiefly, what I've been watching as far as streaming goes, I've been watching Star Trek TNG. So now that all of you quit listening, let's talk about that for a little bit. So, I'm halfway through the series. And I've seen most of these episodes before, but some of them so far long back, I may as well be watching them anew. Because it's been, probably 25 years since I've seen the majority of these. And just some observations here. First of all, I like the way this show is paced. Like, you can burn through a lot of these episodes quick because it doesn't get dull. You compare this to The Walking Dead that's on right now, and it is the most boring show you could possibly watch. Because here you got Star Trek TNG, there's always something new happening. We don't necessarily have every character put to the forefront of every episode. Now, with some of them, hey, maybe there's an episode where Worf isn't necessarily talking. But there's a storyline more than you suspect. You expect it to be very episodic, everything gets wrapped up in one episode, but sometimes things return. I recently saw an episode where Worf got shunned from the Klingons, and then that comes up again shortly thereafter. There's like a challenge for power with the Klingons, and they got to decide a new supreme leader, and it's kind of falls on Picard's shoulders because no one can be trusted. And things like that, you have to keep in mind where the characters are at. And Tasha Yar gets killed in the first season, and then maybe every once in a while, maybe once a season or something, somebody kind of mentions that. And there's even like a weird alternate version of the Enterprise where she appears again, and because she learns that she died in the other timeline, she has to do riskier stuff. It's like, well, I may as well take a chance here, something, whatever. I wonder, though, if the Q thing would work today. Now, you look at movies like the recent Star Wars, and you're thinking, okay, we have this super uber powered chick. She's so powerful, it's unexplained. Would that work against Q? Because it's like, hey, we were working with science fiction, and now we just gone off the deep end. We seem to be dealing with fiction. We just have this godlike being. But I think it helps that he's working against the crew, that he's like this trickster, and the crew have to try to find some way around that. So they're going up against a powerful being. That doesn't make him a Mary Sue, I feel. At one point, Q sends the Enterprise deep into, I think it was the Delta Quadrant. Oh, you guys think you're tough out here? Well, let me show you what's really out there. I'm getting a drink of Coke here, Pepsi. Anyways, out there, way, way far out, they come across the Borg for the first time. And if you watch that first appearance of the Borg, I think the episode's called Q Who. The Borg do not talk. There's no communication from them. They do not say the famous resistance is futile. That doesn't come up until the second appearance, where they actually capture Picard and Borgify him. They assimilate. Oh, but that's quickly reversed, and prolonged side effects seem to be minimal until the Star Trek First Contact film, which is about 6 years later, I think. Anyways, isn't it a little weird if they made first contact with the Borg out there in the Delta Quadrant? They don't know who they are. They don't know anything about them. They're the first Federation ship to come across them. Yet all of the Borg are human. So where did they get these humans they assimilated? Now, Whoopi Goldberg's character, Guinan, is like this centuries-old Yoda of Star Trek. She doesn't really have powers, but she's been around and she's observed a lot. And she says that the Borg attacked her people and sent them scurried across the galaxy to try to get away from these. So are these like her people? Maybe that whatever it is, there's a lot of people out there for the Borg to assimilate in there. Because I don't see like a Vulcan Borg, I don't see a Klingon Borg. I was talking to a college friend of mine. He said that there was a Klingon Borg in Voyager. So my plan here is to get through TNG. I'm probably about through the first season of Star Trek TOS, which I've been watching on Netflix because they like upgraded the effects or something. And they upgraded the effects on TNG, I think specifically for Netflix. There were a couple episodes where they had some effects reworked. I think they had to go far out. They had to, like, with CGI, I think, the saucer separation sequence in the first episode, I think they had to do that in CGI because they lost the footage because it was repurposed for use with Star Trek Generations film. And so they had to do that in CGI, and it's fairly convincing enough. Now, the TOS, they did the CGI work for that. They replaced the Enterprise in the exterior shots with CGI in 2007, so it looks like 2007 TV CGI, which is a little unfortunate. But yeah, I'll get back through that. Then I'm going to go through Deep Space Nine, of which I've only seen a few episodes. Voyager, which I've seen probably the first season, and that's about it. And then maybe Enterprise if it's still there. Screw Discovery. But yeah, I enjoy TNG. It's one of my favorite shows. I know that a local TV station was marathoning them, putting like a new episode each day of the week. And this was just a few years ago. This was late at night, and I tried to watch it, and it seemed like they didn't get all of them out there, or maybe I missed a night, or who knows, because there's a lot of these episodes here. I'm like, this isn't too terribly familiar. Now, the last episode I watched, where Picard has to decide what happens with the Klingons, there is a boy that shows up, and it's Worf's son, and the actor who plays him killed himself at the 1st of January this year. So there you go. Yeah, that's starting off this show with some bright news, right? I want to talk to you about the Oscars. There's an award show tomorrow that I have no intentions of watching. For several years now, I've gone out of my way to try to avoid even hearing about. I don't want to know who's nominated. In some ways, it always gets brought to my attention despite my best efforts, but I'm just thankful that certain people aren't nominated in a way. Chiefly, that movie, The Disaster Artist. Is that up for anything? I've got to kind of look this up here. I think that movie is problematic. And I feel like problematic is problematic in 2018. I don't want to have to say that word so much here, but I find it to be disheartening for an independent film that blew up because it was bad to essentially be made fun of by Hollywood with a remake. So it's like this weird Ed Wood type situation where why watch James Franco be Tommy Wiseau when you can actually watch Tommy Wiseau? Why is repeating a joke funny now? The whole thing that makes The Room funny is that it's unintentional. You can't recreate unintentional comedy. It's disingenuous. You know, James Franco gets a Golden Globe for Best Actor, and then all of a sudden, there's some accusations against him. Oh no, me too. We can't. No, if there's accusations, proven guilty until innocent. What are we going to do? Let's have him not get an Oscar nomination. Now, it looks pretty bad for the entertainment industry for someone to have an award, one of your major awards, and then they're not even nominated in your other award show. Does this maybe tip the hat to the public that maybe this stuff doesn't really matter? That it's superficial, that it's nepotism, it's cronyism, it's a whole lot of appealing to the demographic that is in charge and making the rules here? Are we starting to figure out that this stuff is meaningless? Because I've brought it up before, and I'll say it again. I started to really figure this out when Michael Bay's Transformers didn't get an Oscar for Best Visual Effects. It was very clear that 2007's Transformers had better visual effects than The Golden Compass. You can't look at both of those movies and convince me otherwise. Now, since that shouldn't have been up for debate, it really came down to, oh, well, that has Michael Bay attached to it, and we don't like him. It's cool to shit on Michael Bay. So there we go. Can't have any of his stuff get an award. And that's the card they're playing here. You know, you're appealing to the people who vote. Oh, hey, we let a whole lot of black people into the Academy. Guess what? We don't want all our black viewers to quit watching. Here you go. Here's a little something for you. And now we're going to have a black movie win. Yay. And you know, Moonlight beat the most Oscar bait movie of all time. Oh, hey, it's a movie about people who like movies and they dance. And she's an actress. She's an aspiring actress who just gets handed stardom. We never even see her really act or anything. Now, she goes to an audition, now she's famous. Yeah. Acting, Hollywood's amazing. God, that movie sucks. So, you know, what we're looking at here is just a bunch of crap that doesn't matter. Call Me by Your Name. I know only from what controversy I've heard of this movie, where it's like some older guy hooks up with some teenager. And now, in the light of this Me Too Time's Up stuff, doesn't that look bad? Doesn't it look bad to be like the predator? Doesn't that make you Kevin Spacey? Oh, but no, he's helping him discover his sexual awakening. Is that the card we're playing here? Only through a distorted lens can you see it that way. It's a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, oh yeah, you know what? They even removed the giant statues you'd see at the Oscars. You know, at the red carpet, they have these, like, maybe 12, 15-foot tall Oscar statues. Oh, but that's sexist now because Oscar's a guy. He's protecting his junk with that sword. So we don't want the actresses to feel bad. They're going to protest in some way. Oh, but there's going to be some other kind of controversy. We got Ryan Seacrest is working the red carpet. Who would have thought that Ryan Seacrest showing up somewhere would be controversial? Yeah, but that's where we're at now, isn't it? So he's got some allegations against a hairdresser that he groped or something, slapped her on the butt hard. And now actresses are going to turn the tables on him, and it's going to make for a bad look. But of course, like I said, you're guilty until proven innocent now, or, for as long as the hush money can work. That's how things work these days. And so, yeah, what's going to happen to Seacrest? Is someone going to turn the tables, and then they're going to get their star elevated? Is that how this works here? Because that seems to be what we're going for, isn't it? I'm not watching. I hope you guys don't watch. We don't need to see these stars show up. And, it makes me feel bad for enjoying film and for going out of my way to be educated in film in college. And then this is the future that was left for me, is just film being destroyed and manipulated. We have to have everything turn into politics. It doesn't matter so much what dress you wore, but your statement. And you have to speak your truth. This shit. It's so off-putting. So this is where we're going to wrap up the podcast for the free listeners. Those 3 of you who are paying on Patreon, $1 gets you full access to the remainder of the recently canceled podcast. So, see you over there.